Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Let me share my screen. Today, we're going to talk about static and dynamic permissions, when you should choose static permissions, when you choose dynamic permissions, how to switch between them without losing permissions you have set up already. I have built a simple project, and we'll start with static permissions, then we talk about dynamic permissions, and we'll see how we can transition from one to another. So static permissions is something that is fairly simple. You set up everything right in the software, and all data is stored in the code. So let me show my users group first, users table. Okay, we have users table in our database, and we have one admin, a few users, and one customer. So this is how I want to set it up. 3 different groups, 5 customers, five users. That's fairly simple. So I have enabled database authentication first, and I went to security screen, enabled static permissions, and you can see that I have added groups like admin, user, and customer right here. And admin has full access to everything, all the objects we have in the database. User has all permissions except delete and import. And customer only has enough permissions to, let's say, place orders, right? So they can add data to, okay, maybe edit. Let's do edit just in case. So they can update the information. They can delete anything, and they can should have read-only access to tables like customers, which is going to be their own data, maybe not. So it's users, maybe like this. Doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it makes sense. So the customer is a person that should be able to place orders. So we need to provide some add and edit permissions on order owner details. Okay, so everything makes sense, right? So we build the project, run it, and so if everyone is an admin, we can see that we have full access to everything. And if we log out and log on as a customer, survey, we have read-only access to some tables. Okay, it works. So let's take a look at how this data is stored in project settings. So it has this is something that has changed between versions 10.91 and 11, and in version 11 we simplified it a little bit. So our output folder is runner apps, webinar permissions. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the output folder, right? So let's search for something, one of the group names, customer, and let's make sure we're searching for the whole word. So it will find us bunch of files because we also have a customers table, but it should point us to the file with all project settings. And we will take a look at this and we'll see how we can extract that information. And so again, in version 11, we have simplified it a little bit. And now you can, basically you can, during the runtime, during the program execution, you can access pretty much all the settings that you have specified in your project. So most of the time you don't need that, but I just want to show you a few ideas, right? So let's take a look at this. So there is a global variable named runner project settings, and we can access it, I'm pretty sure, in pretty much any event, but we will be using after application initialized event. And you can see that it has, again, pretty much all the settings here. And if you take a look at this, you can see static permissions. That's what we're looking for. And it is located under security, then static permissions is a property of security. And inside static permissions is also an array. And in that array, we have groups. And that's going to be our starting point, right? So I have prepared a little bit. Let's take a look at this. So to be able to access this global object in any event, you need to define it as global, meaning that it was defined somewhere else outside the scope of this specific function. And now we just print in the contents of project settings security static permissions groups, the one that we just was looking at. So let's build the project, see how it looks, and then we'll switch to dynamic permissions, see how that works, and we'll see how we can map one to another. So static permissions is something that you usually start with. It's easier to set up, and for smaller projects, it's a better fit. But at some point, if your project is updated constantly, and if you add a new table or new object to your project, you need to update permissions, you need to rebuild your project, you need to upload it, and it's this is something that is you probably don't want to do. So, or if your groups or permissions are changing constantly, you probably want to update the hassle of rebuilding it too often. Okay. So dynamic permissions is a little bit more work, but it is more flexible, and there are a few other scenarios that I will cover a little bit later that can be useful. So let's take a look at this, what kind of information we have in our user groups, okay? So it's probably going to be easier if we do this. Right, okay. So you can see that on top level, we have an array, and in that array, every element is also an array, but it's contains name of the group, which is default, and then all the permissions of a default group. Then it's a group named admin, then group named user, and a group named customer. So this is, and the rest of it is permissions inside that group. So that's is going to be our start. And let's take another look at security permissions. So these are our groups, what we're talking about. So for every group, we have an entry in groups array, which is also an array. So let's see if we can, let's take a little bit closer look at, for instance, one of the groups like customer. So we just can customer, and then what's next? Permissions. We're just trying to, like, I just want to show you how you can work with this project settings array if you ever need to do something like this. Probably not, but it has lots of other settings as well. Pretty much anything that is useful, it will be here. These are global project settings, and we have similar files for every table, every object. But right now we need to figure out like how to work with this. Okay, let's take customer permissions, and then probably we can dig down to one of the table names. Okay, let's update it. Let's update our code. One more, take a look. Customer permissions categories. Okay. Customer permissions. It's a very, very deep multi-dimensional array, but this is how we need to work with it and categories. So since no, so the question is, if we make changes to those arrays, will it work for that session? No, it will not work for the session, but it will work for this specific page. So since this is a file, right, and this file is being loaded every time we reload the page, so yes, you can make changes to something and it will work. But once you reload the page, it will get lost. So you will have to make those changes again, which is possible, right? So for instance, if you want to update static permissions on the fly, adding something, yeah, it's interesting question. Yeah, we can try that. Yeah, we can try that. Again, just in case, it's like another technique. So most of the time you probably don't need that, but why not?